Morning, everybody. Welcome to Daryl Buu's weekly update for May the 17th. Looking a little cloudy out there, but nice weekend. How was your weekend, Buu? What did you get up to?
Yeah, it was. I mean, the weather was amazing. I was in shorts and t-shirts the entire time. Got out for a bit of riding. I'm sure we'll get to talk about that with Sander when he jumps on as well. But yeah, got out for 3 separate rides, and by my third ride, which was at about noon on Sunday, my body was just shut down at that point. The legs were pretty tired from all the climbs, and climbed up the hill once, came down for a run, climbed up again, and like the little road, the mountain road that's cut out to take you up, that you're going up, like there was no shade anymore. I was in direct sun. I had a black jersey on, and like I could just feel my legs just like shut down at that point. So we did one more run, but yeah, got out for a lot of riding. Got outside as much as I could. So it was a good weekend. How about yourself?
Yeah, well, we did a little ride yesterday too. Nothing crazy, just around our neighborhood, and went and visited some friends who have purchased a new house a little while ago, and have basically brought it down to the studs and gonna redo the entire house. So we had a little visit with them in their backyard yesterday, and Saturday was a nice treat. I'd talked about this before. Good friends of ours who have a boat. So a group of us that were vaccinated have been jumped on the boat about 11 o'clock, and then spent the day out in the water. And it was pretty breezy all day up until about probably around 3 o'clock. Not complaining whatsoever. It was sunny and gorgeous and all that, but didn't jump into the water or anything like that like we usually would. But yeah, it was a fantastic day. Just went out there, basically had some lunch, kind of just hung out on the water and soaked in all of the beauty of the West Coast. So nice. By the time we got in, it was 8 p.m. type of thing, and yeah, it was a good long day. I forgot to mention last week too, I got my inventory of Daryl and Buu show stickers.
Yeah, for all the fans that you run into, you'll be able to distribute the merch as well.
I think on the open market, these are about $89.99, something that's close to $100 each on the open market. But for loyal followers, they're absolutely free. So let us know if you want one.
We'll sell them by NFT. Actually, we can NFT those with
exactly
NFT as well.
I think it's probably a good idea.
Yeah.
So yeah, we've got our friend of the show, Sander, waiting in the wings.
Actually, speaking of boats, maybe we can get an update. Hey,
yeah.
Hey, good morning, guys.
Morning.
Yeah, how's it going?
It's going well. How about y'all?
Yeah, pretty good. Yeah. So, how is your boat going, Sander?
Well, it's like I I think the solved at the finish line would be the way to say it. Because I sent you a photo a couple weeks ago when it was like all glossy and looking amazing, right?
Yeah.
Let me find that.
So it's like all the hard work is done, or most of the hard work is done. We still have to attach the combing around the cockpit that's going to like hold the spray skirt on, and we need to do a couple small things. But then there was a couple weeks ago, we thought we were going to be moving soon, and we had to get both of our boats out of our house so we could do some work in the basement. Long story short, the boat's not in my basement anymore, and it probably has like 10 more hours of work on it, but I have no idea when I'm going to do that work. So it's a little bummer. I was saying I wanted to actually be paddling it by May, and it's like almost done. It looks great. It's really cool, but probably won't be paddling in May. Maybe in June if I can get my stuff together.
Nice.
Here's the picture of it here. It looks
yeah.
amazing.
Yeah, the things look gorgeous.
It's funny. It's this like thing you get this. It's like you get they ship it to you in a flat box or a bunch of flat boxes, right? And it was like simultaneously the process was a little simpler and a little bit more complex than I was expecting. But it's like there are these notable stages at which it just like all of a sudden it looks more like a boat than it used to, right? Because in the beginning you just have these boards and you got to glue them together, and then you have this like rough hull shape. But when we finally did that top glass and glass the deck down to the lower hull, which is a stage you guys can see there, it was like it blew our minds. We were so happy.
Wow.
That is a 2-man canoe, though, Sander?
No, that's a single.
It's a single, okay.
Yeah. So what happened was we bought one of these that someone else had built because we didn't know how well they were going to paddle, and we didn't know if we really had the time and the space to build one of these ourselves. So we bought one on Craigslist as an experiment, and it turned out to be like so much better of a boat than we realized. And then it was also like I had just spent the previous spring, like this time last year, I was doing a ton of work in the shop. I built a bunch of furniture and stuff, and we were kind of like, screw it, let's just give this thing a shot. So then we bought the kit and built this one. So now we've got 2 boats for 2 people, which is good. If I can just get this thing finished. You can see like right at the edge, at the end of the table there's like a big curvy strip. That's a bit of the cockpit combing that we were just laying up in fiberglass before we glue it down.
Okay.
So cool. I think I mentioned last time, September, we're going with some friends, kind of northern part of BC, called Balron Lakes, a canoeing trip. So I was trying to remember the last time I actually got in a canoe. I was probably a kid. So we're gonna plan a couple of day trips, or maybe an overnighter locally here in the Lower Mainland, and just get used to throwing stuff in a canoe and canoeing around and all that kind of stuff. So we're not completely starting fresh, but I haven't picked up the dates yet. Looking forward to that.
Yeah, that sounds amazing. I mean, it's like it seems like you're gonna see a moose at least, right?
I hope so. Yeah. A BC guy my entire life, but I've never seen a moose or a grizzly. It's grizzly country up there too. So hopefully get to see both.
Yeah, that would be amazing.
Yeah. Don't normally talk about fashion on this show, Sander, but I'm digging your jacket or your shirt you've got on there. Is that
thank you.
Local company?
I don't know. I'm not sure. I've had this shirt for like 10 years, and it's like it's really weird. I have a bunch of these, and I'm like a sucker for like the big check shirt.
Yeah.
But they're also like indestructible. I have like 6 of these, and I've had them all for like 6, 7, 8, 9 years, and they're just like kind of impervious, which is awesome.
Better with age. Very cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. So Sander, one thing that popped into my inbox the other day, and I think a lot of people should be subscribed to the F5 Labs mailing list. If you have not already, you go to f5.com/labs or f5labs.com. But this article is coming up, and I think it'd be good for us to chat about this. Now, I've heard this story here and there, but Dan actually documented it and put it into an article, and you actually provided some commentary on this as well, so maybe we can get you to chat about this a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. I think this article is so cool. And I mean, if any of you guys haven't heard Dan speak, he is a really cool, really fun speaker. He's a great storyteller, but the background is that when it was 2 years ago, almost to the month now, I was visiting some of our own F5 researchers in Tel Aviv, and the idea was we were going to kind of exchange research and try to collaborate more. And we were kind of like, what are you guys working on right now? And they had gathered a bunch of information about the same solver services. And they were like, we don't really like, this isn't something that we're going to work on. Do you guys want to take anything with this? And we kind of looked at it from some other angles. We weren't exactly sure what to do about it. And then like a year later, I had this kind of brainwave about them, about kind of like, what do these things represent? Like, I guess the way that I would put it is it was kind of like, where's the hack in this kind of attack? Like where is the like exploiting unwanted behavior aspect of this kind of attack? And so I wrote an article last year about these things, and it was basically saying kind of like these sorts of things. Like, to me, what I see here is the advantage that the attacker has in sort of choosing where they're going to fight, right? And so it's like a CAPTCHA to me represents defenders saying, oh yeah, we're going to fight you at the level of AI and computer vision. And these sorts of things are like attackers being like, screw that, AI and computer vision is really expensive, and we have this access to this really cheap labor. So instead of beating you at the AI game, we're just going to use humans. And it's like, it's amazingly simple when you look at it. Like, so anyway, I wrote this piece, and it didn't really go anywhere. It's not the sort of like threat content that will get you a talk at Black Hat. In fact, now that I think about it, I think I submitted it to Black Hat and they declined, which is not super surprising because it doesn't fit their brief very much. And then we found out that Dan had actually worked as one of these solvers. So it was like this really funny full circle, because it was like around the same time that I was writing my piece, Dan was like, all right, I got to know what's going on here. So he actually signed up and worked for one of those services. And if I remember correctly, he even he almost wasn't fast enough. Like, he almost got fired from being a solver, because it's like, it's not like super brutal. It's not brutal if all you want to do is continue to be employed by these guys. But if you actually want to make money, leaving alone at like a kind of Western pay standards, but if you want to make any money at all, you got to go really fast. It's kind of crazy. So anyway, yeah, Dan is such a fun guy, and it was really kind of funny to hear about his experience from the exact opposite end of the same phenomenon. So oh yeah, there you go. So he saw 22, and he earned 0.006 of a dollar. That's awesome.
That's tough work.
I'm kidding.
I mean, you talk about tough work when you're a teenager going into construction or whatever, but this is probably the equivalent kind of white collar, illegal white collar, tough labor.
Yeah, and like one of the things I think is so interesting about this is that it because of the sort of like globally distributed nature of this kind of work, and like you don't sign up for this kind of work through your like local labor administration, and you're not going to find this kind of thing sort of being advertised in traditional channels. Like, these are folks who are sort of on the fringes of whatever local community they're in, and they're connecting into this like globally distributed attack network, right? And so it's like, in order for this money to make sense for you, you kind of already have to be at this like kind of fringe level of subsistence. And so like these networks are sort of like connecting up all these people that are not able to achieve social mobility in any other way. Right? Like, this to me, everybody talks about globalization. They're talking about like shipping containers going through the Suez Canal, and they're talking about moving commodities like heavy industry in Germany, making cars in the US. But like, this is the flip side of globalization. Right, is that you can have somebody in Venezuela or in Pakistan or in Indonesia solving CAPTCHAs for a Russian company to bypass access control for American or Canadian or European targets. Like, that's also globalization, and that's kind of what I think is so fascinating about it.
Yeah, it is amazing. When I think about these, thought about these originally, I just assumed they were kind of big giant rooms like call centers where people kind of hacking away at computers. Mm-hmm. But it doesn't. Like you said, you can distribute these around the world and have people working on them, different time zones, different countries.
Yeah, right. And it's kind of a good reminder. Like, it's so common in the security world where we sit and we talk about bad guys, and it's like, yeah, and I don't want to like sugarcoat it, because there are a ton of bad guys in that world, right? There's like human trafficking and all sorts of like weird stuff going on there. But there's also these folks, and if you read their stories, they're like, I'm just trying to pay for school. I'm just trying to put food on my family's plate. Like, there's a couple people that are like, I'm too old to work in my society, but I still need money. And so they're like some 60, 65, 70-year-old people from a bunch of different countries solving CAPTCHAs. So it's a complex world, I guess, is the really dumb way to put it.
Yeah.
You shared this link with us before too, personal stories of some of the employees of Colo.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Coloti Bablo is the name of the company that distributes one of the CAPTCHA solvers. Although the CAPTCHA solver service is not branded as such, but if you like kind of dig deep enough into their sites, they publish this thing. This is the site that they have with case studies of all their solver workers. So these are faces of people that sit and solve CAPTCHA for pay all day.
Wow.
Yeah, kind of looks like evenly distributed between male and female too. So no gender bias here.
If I remember correctly, I think Venezuela is the most frequently seen country. After that, I want to say it's Indonesia, but I'm not 100% sure. But yeah, all over the world, absolutely fascinating.
Yeah, it's got to be, from their perspective too. You can kind of start to see like the further away that you're abstracted from what this is actually doing. So to them, they're just solving a CAPTCHA, and there's like multiple levels where it actually gets to the point where it's creating a bad problem or immediately affecting a bad problem. So to these folks, they probably just think they're sitting in front of a computer looking at some scrambled up words and typing them in. They don't feel like they're actually contributing to something illegal.
Yeah, I really wonder about that. I wonder what these folks would say, and they might say we didn't really know, or they might say we know and we don't really care because that's across the world and that's not really our problem. That would kind of be their prerogative either way. But I am kind of curious how these folks that work here see their own work. But
yeah, like you said, they've got bigger problems of their own to solve.
Yeah, I think most of them do. Yeah, and it's like when I first wrote that thing last year, I wanted to do a kind of analysis and see if I could find any sort of pattern in terms of like social mobility or economic inequality in the different countries, and see like if Venezuela was overrepresented in terms of this kind of labor. But it actually, I couldn't even complete the analysis because Venezuela's economy is so chaotic right now that they don't even have traditional metrics like GDP growth or inequality, inefficiency for the last couple of years, which is a tragedy, right? And it's not a tragedy for my research; it's a tragedy for the people that live there. But that was kind of the real. I was looking for all these national level patterns, and then I realized like, oh, there are no national level patterns because I think that a lot of these people are sort of on the fringe of whatever nation that they're working in, and are sort of finding this alternate path, right? Because I don't think anybody goes to school to become a CAPTCHA solver, right? This isn't what you think of as a career path.
Any country with decent internet and high rates of poverty is a big target, I imagine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So Dan's piece is cool. He goes into a little bit more detail about how the solvers work and sort of like it's a cool perspective, I think, on a side of this world that we often sort of just make assumptions about or sort of treat like it's a uniform entity. And I think, yeah, that's kind of the point, is that this is a much more kind of complex world on the attacker side than we can sometimes think. And I do that too. I kind of will paint with a broad brush about attackers and their motivations and all this stuff.
Right.
So he mentions as well, like the amount of customer service that you get with these services is pretty high. They help you out quite a bit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's amazing. And like technical support for API integration, right? Because like the context for a lot of these things is that the solvers are supposed to kind of bolt on to an automated process for credential attacks so that you can scale this whole thing up. Like that's the whole point. The reason why CAPTCHAs were introduced in the first place was to prevent people from using bots to attack accounts at scale. Because if it was just about attacking accounts one by one, you wouldn't need the CAPTCHA, right? So because of that, but because a bunch of attackers all tend to have their own kind of homebrewed framework for this kind of scaling and automation, they have to give really detailed customer service on like, here's how you connect to our API. Here's how you build this thing into your attack framework. They'll get on the phone with you. They have support localized into like 6 or 7 different languages, depending on the solver service. And I was looking at this and I was like, man, I wish that the tools that I use had this good customer service. You know, like the attackers or the attackers are getting, I think, just as good customer service as anybody that's trying to, I shouldn't name any products because I think customer service is kind of uniformly bad. But I think that the service here is hilarious and really, really telling, partly about the fact that these folks are not particularly worried about consequences wherever they're working from, presumably Russia. But it also, like, this is a business, right? And it's like, these folks know that if their service sucks and is hard to work with, and there are a ton of these things, there's like at least 12, I think, that we know of. And so they're going to lose their clients to their competitors if they don't provide good customer service and localization.
Yeah.
Yeah, fascinating.
Yeah, and all these jobs will be lost.
Yeah. Yeah.
Actually, you mentioned the some of the tools and stuff, so I should highlight on F5 Labs if folks visit that. There's I think 2 parts to this article so far, but I actually found it pretty fascinating, the level of detail. This was written by John Miller, and just going through the tools that somebody would use if they wanted to go through credential stuffing, all these pieces here. But it's pretty, I mean, the tools, look at it, it's got just big colored buttons for press this to do bad stuff, I guess.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. And like, what I always want to know about this is kind of how does this tool development and the tool distribution and use kind of map to different pieces of the attack community, right? So in the credential stuffing report that we published a couple months ago, one of the things that we were like really emphasizing was that this is kind of an ecosystem that's everyone's really tied together here, both on the defense side and on the attack side, right? Because one organization's password breach is also going to be the next organization's credential stuffing attack. But it also is clear that it is a relatively small subset of more advanced attackers that are usually responsible for stealing the passwords in the first place, cracking the hashes, dumping them on the dark web, distributing all these attack tools, right? And so we don't really know, but we get this sense that there are more sophisticated folks who are probably making a lot of money doing this as a business. And then there's this kind of big pool of folks that are less sophisticated, kind of following other people's leads, learning through example, probably not building their own tools from scratch. And so when I see these kind of attack tools with these big colored buttons, I always want to know who built it and who's using it, right? Like, how does this map to this kind of spectrum of sophistication? That's what I don't know. I think probably some folks, specialists in dark web stuff, might have a better answer than that, but I'm always just curious.
Yeah, it would be interesting to see the amount of revenue they're generating for the company itself, or the company, I guess.
Yeah.
Probably significant.
Integration here with 2CAPTCHA, it looks like, with the API key.
Yep, there you go. Yeah.
Amazing.
You know, it's funny because Browser Automation Studio is one of the more popular credential stuffing attack tools because it has a sort of point and click GUI instead of command line interface. And Browser Automation Studio is published by a Russian company called Bablosoft. And the company that makes one of the captcha solver tools is called Koloti Bablo. And Bablo, I believe, means loot, or like coin or dough in Russian. And so, I mean, it's certainly feasible that there are 2 companies in the hacker community in Russia that both have the word loot in their names. But I always wonder if Koloti Bablo and Bablosoft have anything to do with each other, or if it's just like a common word. I don't know.
Yeah, that's interesting. One more article that I'll highlight that I saw on F5 Labs is this one here. Dave Warburton, former guest of the show, DDoS attack trends for 2020. This is a pretty good one here, but I'll summarize it for everyone. DDoS has not gone away. It's increased over the past year and a half, I believe he was showing 55% or so, increasing in complexity, increasing in DDoS size. So yeah, cool articles on F5 Labs to always go check out. Never forget that.
Yeah, I think this one by David, I think this is the best DDoS piece we've ever published. I think a lot of us were expecting kind of like another, okay, here's some trends, DDoS protection being what it is. I think I was assuming that this was going to be kind of one of the more routine pieces. I guess I shouldn't be so open that we have like routine pieces, but I guess we do. And then we all read it and we were like, oh my God, David, this is awesome. What a cool piece. Just really well thought out. And the Zips law analysis I thought was awesome. So yeah, David, holding the bar up high for the rest of us.
Worth checking out. I found this interesting, actually. So if you break it down by industry, you would have thought finance would be number one, but it's actually technology and telecommunications that were actually over and above finance.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, I would guess maybe finance probably has some better tools in place to block DDoS. Would be my only reason why I would think they'd fall into third, but yeah.
And the telcos, right? I mean, the telecommunications companies could also, like, you can DDoS them as a means to DDoS someone downstream as well. So depending on the attack, they also have a lot of resources, a lot of throughput that they can apply to a situation, right? But it's these sorts of boundaries are always a little fuzzy. Kind of same thing when we're talking about APIs, and it's like trying to like classify an API into a sector is always a little hard, because a lot of times I feel like they're published by the tech industry for consumption by a different industry, right? And so it's like, is a DDoS against a tech provider targeting the tech provider, or is it targeting the customers of the tech provider that need that availability of software, or at the telco level of infrastructure? Is really hard to say. I don't know. Yeah, I have spent the last month or so like really banging my head against the question of sectors and like, how do sectors map up the risk? So every time I see this sort of thing, I'm like, there's a ton of truth here, but there's also, I think, the tendency to miss sight of what attackers are really focused on, which is usually something a lot more focused than a sector. You know what I mean?
Yeah. At the end of the day, if you doesn't matter what industry you're in, there's a reasonable chance you're going to get DDoSed at some point. So
right, yeah, because software and technology, that's both like the means and the ends of attackers, right? Attackers don't attack industries; they attack targets via vulnerabilities in software, right? And so it's like sometimes we can use this sort of thing to predict risk, I think. And then there have been other times where I feel like folks have kind of said, well, like that doesn't seem like the right kind of attack for the BFSI industry. And that's the point where I got to be like, yes, at this point, it's no longer meaningful to look at this from a sector standpoint. We need to look at it from a tech footprint standpoint, really, or like attack surface standpoint.
Yeah.
We've just got 45 seconds left, Sander, and I know you've got one piece that's coming out tomorrow, I believe. So maybe you can give us a quick preview on that before we go.
Yeah, tomorrow, early morning, I think before any of us will have woken up on the West Coast, we will be publishing the 2021 Application Protection Report. This is basically how I've spent the last 4 or 5 months. And I don't want to toot my own horn, but I think it came out pretty good. I'm pretty happy with it, and it's largely because I got a lot of help from some really, really good folks on my team, and we kind of changed up the process a little bit and have a new analysis approach. And I think it's cool. It's very much about ransomware. I think probably folks already know that 2020 was a big year for ransomware. So a lot of analysis on that. A lot of talk about cloud misconfigurations, APIs. I would strongly recommend, if anybody's sort of interested in the big picture of application risk, I think that we've done a good job with this one. So I'm really excited, and it launches tomorrow.
Awesome. Yeah, we look forward to having a look at that. I would encourage everyone to do that. F5 Labs, it's a free service.
Yep.
F5. All right, Sander, great to see you as always. Thank you very much for joining and having a chat with us. And yeah, we'll look forward to catching up next time and seeing some photos of you out in your canoe.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's always a pleasure, guys.
All right.
Cool.
Yeah.
Take care.
Bye, folks.